Hungarian story.
Okay. Let's hear the story of the Hungarian stuff.
Well, you know my sister-in-law, Elizabeth. Do you remember her?
I don't know. Was she? So she was
She
Leslie's
was in the
sister?
concentration camp in Auschwitz, and after she survived, and a few others, that Leslie and I had 2 trips to Israel, and we met all the survivors
From his family?
in his family.
So was Leslie?
Well, they were all gone. I mean, Leslie. No, he came. Oh, that's another story.
Well, don't get ahead of
Well,
yourself.
Well, that's another story. Well, you see how I met him in Madison.
Right.
But he came before the war.
So he missed being taken into a concentration camp.
He was the only one that survived. Besides his sister, he had a big family. They had a big farm in Hungary.
Yeah.
And well, I did a lot of research for my own benefit.
Right.
Too.
And so he.
And Elizabeth got, because she was younger, and she was in forced labor in Auschwitz.
Wow.
And she is one of those that survived.
Was she they freed the camp, and she was there when they freed the camp?
Yes, she was.
Wow.
And so what happened is she went back. There were a few of them. There were a few more of them that I met in Israel, the younger ones. Mm-hmm. The parents, the older ones, Bergen-Belsen, I mean, they didn't.
So Leslie had very few surviving family members.
Right.
Who's carrying on the family line? So is his sister, did his sister have children?
His sister, he brought her back from, he was already here. Mm-hmm. He came before the war on a preferred quota with a PhD in
so like an
dairy
immigrant.
industry.
He was just immigrating from Hungary.
And coming to Wisconsin,
they
had problems and the war was going on. The war was on then.
So did his sister have children?
She never married.
She never married.
She was a single woman, but she had a girl all picked out for her brother, and it wasn't me.
Oh, really? Why not? What's the story there?
Well, I never did get all the details.
Interesting.
But she was a doctor, and she met her in the concentration camp, and they got to be friends.
And she
and
wanted Leslie to marry him or her.
Through the Red Cross, he brought her over. They went to Hungary after the war. They lived in Hungary, but the Red Cross helped him get her to
Wisconsin?
USA because he was in Wisconsin, in Madison.
So he brought her to Wisconsin.
Madison, that's where I was born.
Yeah, and so but he didn't end up marrying this woman that she picked out. Why not?
That was a big disappointment to her. He had a few other girlfriends, but I never got into that.
Well, looks like he made the right choice.
Huh?
He made the right choice.
He did.
Or did you choose him?
I fell in love. Now you get into the really nitty-gritty. It was like he was dropped in my lap. Because he was not only good-looking, but I never did dig into his past too much about whether he had girlfriends or not. He must have had other girlfriends.
But
he was in his 30s, and so was I.
Right.
We weren't kids anymore.
You weren't kids anymore, but you settled down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I sure did.
Wow.
And I think it was about a year after that when Alan was born.
Didn't waste any time.
No, because I was in my 30s.
That was pretty old to have a kid back then. Not anymore so much.
During the war, I worked in the hospital as a nurse's aide,
In Wisconsin?
Volunteer.
In Madison?
No, in Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee.
This was 1950.
Oh, my goodness. So you had left Madison and gone to Milwaukee.
Yeah, see, there I am. And see the 2 nurses there?
Where? Which one?
On the mirror.
Oh, yes.